Welcome, everyone, to Astra, the Exomarketing Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Kurz.
And I am Xylo the Droid, ready to process the latest developments in reaching for the stars and beyond.
Today, we're taking a really fascinating dive into something truly groundbreaking, the burgeoning lunar economy. It's honestly stopped feeling like science fiction, hasn't it? We'll be exploring how the moon is kind of shifting from just being, well, up there to being a potential hub for business, for innovation, and yeah, even marketing.
What's truly captivating, I think, is this shift. It's moving away from being purely scientific or symbolic.
Yeah, like Apollo.
Precisely. To a place with actual economic potential. These aren't just one-off missions anymore. They're foundational steps toward a sustained presence, both human and commercial.
Absolutely. And what feels so different this time compared to Apollo is it's not just governments. It's this really interesting mix, isn't it? Public and private working, sometimes together, sometimes separately.
That's a key distinction.
So why do you think this is all kicking off now? What's really driving this current lunar push?
Well, from our analysis, there seem to be three key forces sort of converging right now. First, simple proximity. The moon is, relatively speaking, right next door, just over, 380,000 kilometers?
Which is still a long way, but compared to Mars.
Exactly, and making it a much more accessible first step for venturing beyond Earth orbit, a vital proving ground.
That shorter travel time, I assume that drastically affects costs and just the feasibility of doing things often.
Precisely. Huge impact. Second, our understanding of lunar resources has grown exponentially. The big one is water ice. Rocket fuel, right there. Imagine the implications. You reduce the need to launch heavy fuel from Earth.
Which is hugely expensive.
Immensely.
Yeah.
And it enables potentially more ambitious missions deeper into space later on, launching from the moon or lunar orbit.
Wow. Okay. Water ice as lunar rocket fuel. That really does reframe things.
Oh.
And the third force.
The moon is just an invaluable testbed for technologies we absolutely need for more complex stuff, like getting crews to Mars.
Okay, like what kind of tech?
Long-duration habitats, reliable communication systems over those distances, even things like autonomous construction. Trying that out on the moon first is far more manageable than attempting it straight away on Mars.
So it's not just about going back to the moon. It's about using the moon to learn, to prepare, to propel us further out.
That's the strategic view, yes.
Which leads to the big question. Who are the main players actually, doing all this, driving this forward?
Well, at the forefront, you definitely have NASA's Artemis program.
Right.
Hugely ambitious. The goal isn't just boots on the ground again, but returning humans, including the first woman and person of color, and critically, establishing a long-term, sustainable presence.
Sustainable is the key word there, isn't it?
It is. It implies habitats, power grids, ways to get around on the surface, real infrastructure.
That sounds like a massive government undertaking. How does the commercial side, the private companies, fit into that vision?
That's where the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program, CLPS, becomes really pivotal. NASA is essentially contracting out delivery services to private companies. Many are innovative startups, like Astrobotic, Intuitive Machines, Firefly Aerospace.
So like a lunar FedEx?
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
They're hired to take payloads, scientific instruments, NASA gear to the moon. But here's the interesting part for our discussion. These landers aren't just carrying science.
Right, you mentioned this earlier.
They're also carrying commercial cargo. That could be art, could be branding initiatives, could even be things like secure digital archives, blockchain stuff sometimes.
So private companies are already hitching rides or buying their own spots.
Exactly. And this whole CLPS model, it allows NASA to move faster, arguably more cost-effectively, and it stimulates this private space industry at the same time.
And we've seen examples already, haven't we? Even if they haven't all, landed perfectly.
Correct. A very clear signal was the Japanese company Space's mission in 2023. Now, unfortunately, it didn't achieve a soft landing.
Right.
But look at who was on board. It had this incredibly diverse manifest, a rover from Saudi Arabia, an AI module from Canada, cultural artifacts from the UAE.
Wow, that's quite a mix.
It really demonstrated the burgeoning global and commercial appetite for getting things to the moon, even before large-scale infrastructure is fully there.
A Saudi rover heading to the moon via a Japanese company. It really does show how global and commercial this is becoming.
Okay, so with all these different players sending things up, what kind of actual infrastructure is starting to emerge? What are people building or planning to build?
Well, we're seeing the foundations being laid. You need reliable delivery and logistics, obviously.
Yeah.
So better payload transport, surface rovers for moving around and checking resources, more sophisticated landers. That's sort of the baseline.
ISRU, that's a huge area of development.
Using local resources.
Exactly. The primary target is that water ice. If you can reliably extract it, purify it, turn it into drinking water, breathable oxygen,
And the rocket fuel we talked about.
and the propellant. If you can do that on the moon, it dramatically cuts your dependence on Earth. It's fundamental for any kind of self-sufficient long-term operation.
That would be absolutely transformative for like permanent bases or settlements eventually. What other key infrastructure pieces are needed?
Energy. Reliable power is crucial. So you're seeing development of advanced solar arrays, research into transmitting power across the lunar surface efficiently.
Right, because the lunar night is long and cold.
Very long. Then there's habitat construction. And finally, communications. You need robust networks for navigation, for sending back all that science data, and yeah, maybe eventually sporting commercial streams or other activities.
Streaming services from the moon, built with moon dust. It's still slightly mind-boggling.
The concepts are advancing rapidly.
Okay, so with all this potential building and activity, the big question becomes, who owns the moon? Can you just, like, claim a patch?
A very important point. And the answer, fundamentally, is no. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 is the key legal framework here. And it's very clear. No nation can claim sovereignty over the moon or any other celestial body. You can't plant a flag and say, this is ours in a national sense. It's based on the principle of non-appropriation by nations.
Okay, so no country can own the moon. But what about companies? Can a business set up shop?
Well, the treaty doesn't explicitly forbid private activity. It focuses on national appropriation. So the way it's developing is less about owning land and more about establishing a presence or conducting activities. Think of it maybe like terrestrial analogies. A brand can buy billboard time, right? Or sponsor an event space. They don't own the billboard or the stadium.
Okay, so it's like leasing time or space.
Kind of. So for the moon, this could mean buying payload slots on those commercial landers we talked about to send up your own stuff.
Like a product or a symbol.
Could be. Or sponsoring a scientific experiment that's happening on the moon. Or placing symbolic artifacts, time capsules, art, digital messages. Co-branding missions with space agencies or universities is another way.
So the real estate isn't really about square footage on the surface.
Not in the legal ownership sense, no.
It's more about owning a moment.
Precisely. You've hit it. The truly valuable real estate here isn't a deed. It's emotional territory. It's about visibility, memory, being associated with being first, with innovation, with humanity's future.
That's a really fascinating way to frame it. Emotional territory. Can you give us some more concrete examples? How are brands starting to actually use this creatively? Or how could they?
Well, we're seeing the early stages. One idea is the lunar payload as essentially a PR launch.
How so?
Imagine sending a non-functional item, maybe a prototype, maybe just a symbol of the brand to the moon. The object itself doesn't do anything there.
Right.
But the story of it being on the moon, the documentation, the PR around that, that's the product in a marketing sense.
Just the fact that it's there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you have things like time capsules. This has a lot of potential, I think. A global brand could partner with, say, a museum or cultural group, sponsor a project to collect messages or artwork from people worldwide. That creates a really powerful, lasting connection.
Very evocative. What else?
Symbolic sponsorships are another route. Maybe a tech company sponsors a specific scientific instrument or part of a rover.
But not necessarily plastering logos all over it.
Probably not. It's more subtle. Leveraging the narrative. Being able to say, credibly, our technology was tested, was proven on the moon. That carries a certain weight, a prestige.
Yeah, tested on the moon is a pretty strong tagline.
It is. And we're also seeing cultural installations. Artists have sent sculptures. There's poetry, data archives. Brands could potentially participate thoughtfully in these kinds of initiatives if it aligns with their values.
So it seems the key is really about contributing to the bigger story, the human story of lunar exploration and innovation, and then finding authentic ways to link your brand to that narrative.
That's a very good way to put it. Authenticity will be key.
Okay, turning to the numbers for a second, what does the financial side of this look like? Is there real money flowing into this nascent lunar economy?
Oh, yes. The indicators are definitely strong. NASA alone, through programs like CLPS and Artemis development, has already awarded upwards of $2.6 billion in contracts to private companies for lunar missions and related tech.
That's significant seed money.
It is. And looking forward, you have industry projections, firms like Bank of America, Deloitte. They're estimating the lunar economy could potentially exceed $100 billion annually by 2040. And the sheer number of missions is increasing. More private attempts per year means more opportunities, more windows for commercial and marketing engagement are opening up.
So for the marketers, the brand strategists listening right now, thinking about this new frontier, what's the key takeaway? What's your core piece of advice for approaching the moon?
The most critical piece of guidance, I believe, is this. Don't market the moon itself. Market what the moon signifies.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
The moon holds this unique, incredibly powerful place in the human imagination, right? It represents ambition, exploration, legacy, our collective reach for something bigger. Truly effective lunar marketing needs to tap into that. It has to connect with that deeper meaning. Align your brand with that grander vision, something far beyond just selling a product or service. It transcends simple promotion.
Market what the moon signifies.
I like that. It's powerful. What other sort of guiding principles should aspiring space marketers keep in mind?
Definitely tell authentic, meaningful stories. Focus on the why. Why are you involved? Who benefits ultimately?
Right.
Look for partnerships, science, art, education. Space activities, especially commercial ones, are likely to be under intense public scrutiny. So honesty is paramount.
Good point.
Also, always try to anchor campaigns back to Earth. Show tangible benefits or connections here. And finally, frame your brand's participation not as dominance.
Brands that genuinely focus on making the moon meaningful, not just monetized, are the ones likely to build that lasting impact and connection.
So bringing this all together, it really sounds like we're standing at the edge of a truly transformative era, not just for space exploration, but for how we even think about commerce, about brand building, about our place beyond Earth.
Precisely. The moon is rapidly evolving.
What an absolutely incredible journey into this burgeoning lunar economy.
The intersection of exploration, science, commerce, and even marketing. It's creating a landscape that's evolving almost constantly. Gives you a lot to think about.
It really does. If this deep dive into the lunar economy has sparked your imagination, maybe given you some new ideas, be sure to like and subscribe to Astra, the Exo Marketing Podcast. We'll have more explorations into the frontiers of marketing.
Stay tuned for our next transmission.
And remember, out there in the vast expanse of the cosmos,
your brand's potential is limitless.